Hey there, my name is Bernadette Smith, and I'm a keynote speaker and writer. My pronouns are she and her. Welcome to 5 Things in 15 Minutes, my weekly show where I still bring good vibes to DEI. That is good vibes to diversity, equity, and inclusion with a little dash of corporate social responsibility. What I've found is that there are lots of news stories about what's going wrong in the world and lots of negative data, but there are also a lot of things going right. That's what I like to focus on. I search for stories that we can be inspired by and learn from. My hope is to inspire you to experiment with some of these actions and policies to help you build a more inclusive world. In this week's episode, I'm joined by Celeste Warren, she, her, diversity and inclusion leader, speaker, and the author who proves that equity, it's not a dirty word. This week, our conversation is about Denmark drafting women, Chicago Sky blocking trolls with national security tech, HEB delivering to flood zones, and more. Celeste, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bernadette. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure to have you. Why don't you tell folks a little bit about yourself?
As she said, my name is Celeste Warren. I'm a recent retiree from Merck, where I was the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer for 10 years. I was with Merck altogether 28 years. And I am totally excited about this next chapter in my life, in my career, and doing some consulting in diversity, equity, and inclusion, and have a new book out as well.
Awesome. And can you tell folks a little bit about what this next chapter, how do you envision it? What's sort of your goal?
Well, my goal is to get people on the same page when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion. There's been such anti DEI rhetoric, such misinformation. And so I want to make sure that people understand what it's about, that it's plain old fashioned good people strategies and good business strategies. And so
Mm-hmm.
once they understand that and understand the importance that it is in recognizing people's individual differences and incorporating them in all of the different things that we do from a people standpoint, from an HR standpoint, from business strategies, really, really critical. And they'll be able to understand that it isn't something that we need to be fearful of or making fun of or cause divisiveness about. It's something that we all need to be a part of.
Well, and it's good for everyone. And I think that because like you're right. I mean, the term has been weaponized, it's been distorted, and like your book title, it's been turned into a dirty word, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I just want to basically be able to let people know the truth about equity, what it really is, what it isn't, and why everyone wins when you get it right. And that's the title of the book. And so I just want to educate folks. And once they're educated, then we want them to be active allies and join in the work to create a better society in whole.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Well, a lot of the stories in the newsletter are about equity, but I would love, because the term does get so misconstrued, I would love it. Would you mind defining equity in your words? Like how help folks understand?
Well, the way I explain it is basically equality and equity are different.
Sure.
Equality, and if you remember that illustration where the people are standing. There's three people standing on one rock, and there's a fence in front of them. Well, equality is they're standing on that one rock. The person on the right can't see over the fence. The person in the middle can barely see over the fence. The person on the left can see over the fence very clearly. And then in the middle, you see where the person on the right's been given three rocks, the person in the middle two rocks. And the analogy that I talk about in the book, to make it really, really simple, the rocks are the acts of equity to
Mm.
help people to see over the fence. And in my analogy, the fence it is basically, it represents all of the isms that exist historically and today in society:
Mhm.
racism, sexism, homophobia, all of those different things that they didn't crop up overnight, but it's going to take a strategic plan and sustaining change to be able to tear that fence down. But while we're doing that work, we have to put those acts of equity in place. So,
Mm.
having women's leadership programs, for example, and employee resource groups, and different
Mhm.
types of things that are given to marginalized groups, we need to put those things in place. But also at the same time, we need to be talking to that person who's standing on one rock, because they're looking to their right and saying, well, how come they have three rocks and they have two rocks and I just have
Mm-hmm.
one? They don't understand that that fence is there because they've always been able to see over it. And so
Mm.
they don't know how those isms manifest themselves in behavior, marginalized behavior, to those persons to his right. And so, what we have to do is we have to explain and help them, give them resources so they can understand, educate themselves on what that fence really looks like, how it shows up for those people on the right. And then we need to get them to be active allies in helping us with the work. So, once they understand it intellectually, and then they can get it and understand it, maybe relate to it within the heart passionately,
Mm-hmm.
we get them to start doing some work to help us to tear down that fence, because that's the big work that needs to be done. And this act of equity is causing disruption. It's causing some of this misinformation because people don't see the fence; they only see the rocks.
That's right. Yeah, I think that there's a perception that it means it's reverse discrimination or it's
Yes,
unfair in the opposite way, right? But you're right. They don't see the fence. Well explained. Thank you. Well,
sure.
sometimes I get to be a guest on podcasts as well. And
Mhm.
last week I was a guest on a show called the Exceptional Sales Leader podcast. And one of the things that came up is a question that the host asked. He said, what do I say when a client tells me this is all too simple? We're a very complex business dealing with highly complex people. And what I responded with is, humans, we are complex by design, and diversity is, infinite, right? There's such a huge mosaic in what counts as diversity, different
Mhm.
lived experiences, contradictions, identities. It's all there. And so, we are a complex society, but we need something simple to sort of cut through the complexity with different folks who are different from us. And I think that the solution is really kind curiosity. So I have a tool called the ARC method, which is about ask, respect, connect. And it's really about sort of cutting through all of the differences and just getting to the place of kind curiosity. How have
Mhm.
you seen that play out in the workplace?
When I read that, Bernadette, I thought that was great. It was absolutely correct, because we have to distill all of this complexity to really easy to understand conversations and dialogue. Because if you just, we have to think about who we're trying to talk to and the messages that we're trying to deliver, and making sure that whoever it is that we're talking to, that they receive it and they understand
Mm.
it. And so the best way to do that is a simple way of communicating and getting people to understand. I love the acronym, absolutely loved it. And it's what's important in the dialogue and in the conversation today, is making it simple so people can
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah, because I think we get in our heads about it. Oh,
Mhm.
there's just too it's too complicated. Well, it's really not if we're just a little more
Mhm.
kindly curious, right?
That's exactly it. It's about meeting people where they are. Each of us is an
Mhm.
individual. Every single one of us is an individual, and we're the intersection of different individuals. So I'm not just a woman. I'm a black woman. I'm a mother. I'm a retiree now, an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
So all of these different things make up the individual. And what we have to understand is we need to talk to people by meeting them where they are, understanding where they are, and then having those conversations to bring them forward. And that's the thing that we need to understand. It's not a monolith. Everyone, that is in a particular identity, they're all the same. We know, Bernadette, that that's not the truth at all. Each of us as individuals. Diversity means differences, differences in people, those you can see and those you can't see. And so, what we're trying to do is get to a culture of inclusion, not exclusion, where we're
Mhm.
excluding some people, but inclusion, because that gets us to the collective purpose. All organizations that I know of, whether they be for profit, nonprofit, firms, it doesn't make a difference. At universities, schools, they all have a collective purpose, which is the mission and the vision of that particular institution. And you have to get all of those different people in working together, surround them with a culture of inclusion, of engagement, empowerment, put those acts of equity in place that result of you. as a result of getting to know those individuals and knowing what they need and to move them forward so you can have the right performance that you need from each and every one of them to get to that collective purpose. That's what
Love
we
it.
need to be doing. It's
Absolutely.
management 101, basically.
Exactly, exactly. All right, well, let's move into this week's good vibes. The first story this week comes from right here in Chicago. The Chicago Sky, which is the WNBA team for Chicago, just made sports history by partnering with a company called Moonshot to deploy national security grade technology that shields Chicago Sky players from online hate. So,
Mhm.
92% of women in public life face online abuse. And when there's multiple identities like race, gender, sexual orientation compounding threats, especially for Black LGBTQ athletes like Angel Reese, it gets particularly messy. So, the Sky is being proactive about this. I love it.
Yes, it is wonderful. And so I'm a ex-athlete. I went to the University of Kentucky on a volleyball scholarship before there was all of the social media. But I have close colleagues and friends, and my daughter is a student athlete. My son is a student athlete, and they both, are a victim of that sometimes. And
Mm,
so we need to make sure that we're protecting, especially the female athletes, because as you said, it happens a large percentage to them. I love and applaud what they're doing. It is so necessary because there's a lot of people on social media that, first of all, they don't even understand the sports. First of all, they're making some of these comments. And then secondly, they don't know the damage that it does. There's already a lot of pressure on student athletes. There are a lot of pressure on professional athletes. And so doing something like that is just unnecessary. So I applaud their efforts.
yeah, and I'll say just to add, women athletes face a double standard.
Mhm.
Black women athletes face a triple standard, right? In terms of the expectation of what is professional, let's just say, right?
Yes.
Okay, let's move into the second story. So, in a LinkedIn post, Ryan Wilkes, who's a United Airlines manager living with mild cerebral palsy and a stutter, modeled how to reimagine workplace inclusion. So, in the post, he shared a copy of his email signature, which explained that he may pause or type if speech spasms occur. And by doing this, he transforms potential awkwardness into an invitation for empathy and collaboration. Really good advice for Disability Pride Month.
I love it, love it, love it, love it. And the reason why I love it is, first of all, he empowered himself to say, look, this is something that I have. I want to make you aware of it. I'm not ashamed of it. It's a part of who I am, it's a part of my identity. And I want to explain it to you so you understand if something should happen while we are communicating and corresponding. It is a lesson to teach, it is a learning moment, and each and every time that he does that, he's teaching multitudes of people because they're going to talk about it just like you are, Bernadette. They're going to talk about it with colleagues and other people that they work with. So I applaud it and I love it because it just opens up the window of how people can understand those persons that identify as having disabilities.
Exactly. And, I think that it's also it normalizes it in a
Yeah,
way also and says, hey, this is how I can be set up for success. Right. And I think when we know what others need in order to be successful, then, like you said earlier, we can meet them where they're at.
absolutely. I love that story.
All right, the third story this week comes from HEB, which has helped out in Texas during the catastrophic floods. So, the HEB is a grocery store based in the area, and they actually dispatched convoys of trucks stacked with essential supplies, coordinated directly with the Red Cross and local officials, and stationed teams close to the hardest hit neighborhoods and to assess and respond in real time, making sure that food, water, and essentials flowed in without delay, basically getting around the bureaucracy that is in place. So they just showed up and delivered.
That is such a beautiful story. I mean, first of all, my heart, my prayers, my thoughts go out to all of the families in Texas that have been impacted by this horrible, horrible tragedy. And the fact that this local area, this organization said, you know what, we're going to go out and we're going to do what we need to do. They didn't they didn't, sort of rub their hands together and say, okay, I don't know what we should do, and is it safe, and is it, they just did it.
Yep.
And they did it by meeting the needs of people, again, meeting them where they were and helping them when they needed it with what they needed, and being able to respond to the community. I can tell you that probably made, not probably, it did make an impact on those that were impacted by this tragedy and this the floods. Being able to basically say, I'm not going to wait for FEMA, I'm not going to wait for other things, I'm not going to be wait to be told, I'm going to make sure that I go out and I reach these people who need the help. And it wasn't performative, it was them acting on passion, on emotion, on understanding, and just heartfelt, being able to meet the needs of people. Such a wonderful, wonderful act of love.
Absolutely. I mean, just as you talked about it, I got goosebumps. The spirit of service, it's just so important. And of course, their loyalty or their contributions will be
Mhm.
rewarded with loyalty. All right, the fourth story
Absolutely.
this week. The fourth story this week comes from HBO, where the new movie from earlier this year, Sinners, Ryan Coogler's movie, smashed accessibility ceilings. So when the film dropped on Max on July 4th, it did so by offering Black American Sign Language (BASL) interpretation of a movie on a streaming platform. So it's the first ever. And this version recognizes that deaf communities aren't a monolith. BASL has its own rich grammar, rhythm, and cultural nuances rooted in Black history. I learn something new every time I write this, Celeste.
This story was, first of all, I've seen Sinners now. It'll be two or three times,
It's
and
a great
each
film.
time I see something different. It goes beyond just a horror flick, but it's a rich reflection of the Black Southern culture and other cultures as well. And when I read this story, oh my God, Bernadette, it just touched my heart. So in a lot of different ways. Number one, it's bringing the movie to another identity of individuals who want to see it and want to experience it in a way that is close to their culture, so they understand it. And that's exactly what this sign language does. Second thing is, it takes a disability and a communication forum and says, you know what, we aren't all the same, just as people aren't all the same. And it identifies that. I thought it was just absolutely phenomenal and groundbreaking, because we think about the fact that, oh, okay, well, they have a listening disability, okay, all right, or a visual disability, but we don't understand that the individual person goes beyond the disability. They are people, they are part of an identity, they are part of a culture. And the fact that they are taking the sign language and saying, we're going to make it applicable and to this culture, so they understand the movie in a much more integrated, much more personal, intimate way, is just, it's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. He's a great director. He's a
Ugh.
great storyteller, and it doesn't surprise me that he was able to do this.
No, not at all. It's absolutely beautiful, and yeah, I
Mhm.
I want to check it out. I saw it in theaters. I haven't checked out this version.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. And the last story this week comes from Denmark, which just vaulted into gender parity by drafting women alongside men for military service, citing Russia's aggression as the catalyst. So, Danish women turning 18 now join men in a draft lottery, shifting from a volunteer only system for women to mandatory eligibility. Now, of course, there are some problems: ill fitting gear, inadequate barracks, and heightened risks of sexual harassment. But, you know, this is equality.
Yeah, so my initial reaction was, as I read the whole story,
Yeah.
so you know I have a son and I have a daughter. I would be, as a mother, you don't want war. You don't want your children going to war. You don't want them in that atmosphere. You don't want
Hmm.
war, period, even if you aren't a mom.
Yeah,
But so when I saw that, I was like, oh, okay.
I
So
know.
equality, gender equality, I get that.
Yep.
One of the things as I was reading it before I got to the end, because I had a relationship with a prior leader at the Pentagon, and she was talking about how the inequities that happen with women who are in the armed forces, especially the Air Force too, and how the cockpit, it isn't designed for women. There's a lot of different things that aren't designed for women, just as that article stated at the end of the article. So part of me was thinking, okay, you're making this step, but a lot of times the mistake that people make in the journey of diversity, equity, and inclusion is you need to make sure that you're putting correcting the ecosystem around the decision that you've
Yes.
made around parity. And so if you are fighting for parity, that's great. Make sure that you have the ecosystem and all of the things in place to really make it work. And so that was what was going through my mind as I
Yeah.
was reading that article. Applaud their efforts, applaud the desire to be equitable, but put everything in place that's going to make it an environment where women don't have to think that they have to survive, but that they can thrive.
Well, I mean, it's an example of equity versus equality, right? So being
Mhm.
drafted is the equality, but having the ill-fitted everything is an inequity. So
Yeah,
when all of that stuff is corrected, then there will be more equity. So folks are set up for success. So I think that that's actually a really good concrete example of what we were
mhm.
talking about earlier.
Absolutely.
All right, well, let's move into this week's Good Vibes to Go. I'll share my good vibe to go and then invite you to share your good vibe to go. So,
Okay.
this month is Disability Pride Month, and for some great vibes, check out the documentary Crip Camp on Netflix. They call it a joyful disability revolution. I watched it a couple years ago. It is really delightful and would encourage you to check it out. Celeste, what is your good vibe to go?
My good vibe to go is I just want to encourage everyone to get the book, understand the truth about equity, understand what it is, what it isn't. And I really, really, I want to open up a dialogue. And so reach out to me on LinkedIn, reach out to me on crwdiversity.com, and let's have a dialogue. So my good vibe to go is get the book, understand it, open up the conversation, and let's really strive to work together to move this organizations, move the society, move it closer to the type of society that we really want, that all of us want, and we want for the future.
It's good for everyone and easier than we think. All right, Celeste, how can folks get in touch with you?
You can get in touch with me on LinkedIn. I am very active on LinkedIn, especially now moving into this next chapter. So please reach out to me there. You can reach out to me at www.crwdiversity.com. That's crwdiversity.com. It's my initials, CRW. And talks about all of the things that I'm doing. And there's a way to just reach out to me there and we can have a dialogue, and I just want to make sure that I'm able to just contact people, engage with people, and as we said earlier, Bernadette, meet them where they are, so we can all move forward together.
Excellent. Awesome. Well, thank you. You have been a delightful guest. And folks, if you don't already get the Five Things newsletter, you can subscribe at fivethingsdei.com. Have a great week.